just past 1 o'clock, so we'll just go ahead and get started, and the others can jump in after the fact and catch up. And we're recording this session anyway, so for anyone that missed it, I'll send the recording out afterwards. So some of you are experienced. I've talked to some of you quite a bit and looked through some of the platforms. Some of you are brand new, so we're just going to start from the top and start on the dashboard. Type in any questions you have. We'll try to get to them at the end here, but I'll go through pretty much the entire platform and hit on the areas that we see our inspectors using the most and potential problem areas and common questions. So starting off on the dashboard, you see your inspections for today that populate. If you hover over them, we built this in recently where you can see some quick info on the buyer, the agent. You can get to the report by clicking View, print the invoice, or edit the inspection details. And that's one big area we'll jump to first that a lot of what you do is going to be centered around, and that's the inspection details page. So when we refer to this, it's kind of your hub for each inspection. And keep in mind that the reports are separate from the inspection. So you can delete and add reports within the inspection. And this is how you would also go to edit and view the report. Rescheduling, a common question we get. You simply just click on the time and date, and you can reschedule the inspection here. If you need to edit the address, same thing. If you hover over it, you'll usually see a pencil icon in many places on our site that allows you to edit details. The same goes for the client, agent, and listing agent. If you have it there, if you hover, you'll see the edit and delete buttons there. Also on the inspection details page, if you have payments set up through Spectora, this is where you'll see if payment has been received. You can also manually mark an inspection paid. You would do that here. Any notes regarding the payment, if it's in person, if they're using a card swiper. And then you can also uncheck the required payments for client to view report, which is checked off by default. And then down here, if you do your agreements as well, you can see if it's been signed or unsigned. You can also upload here if it's a client that signed a physical paper or if that's how you do business in your market. You can also delete and re-add any of these sections through the edit or new button at the top right. This is also where you will add attachments to your report. And we're jumping a little bit ahead here. We'll get to the report, but again, that's where you would add attachments and some other miscellaneous notes here, like an order ID, referral source, some notes, and these show up on your mobile device in the mobile inspection details screen. So if there's important information pertaining to the property, you'd see it there. All right, back to the dashboard. And so starting at the basic level, if you want to edit the address that your Google map will show, you simply click at the top right. That'll drop you into your dashboard settings to have your starting address for the driving directions. The calendar view. You can look at a day, week, or month view. You can set your default for this in settings as well to default as a day, week, or month. We'll skim on that when we get to the settings portion. But a lot of times, at least how I use it when I'm going through testing, I will go right to the calendar, click through on inspections from here to get to the inspection detail screen, and then jump into the report writer or viewing the report directly. So that's pretty basic overview of the dashboard. This marketing pane that you see here, this is for our inspectors that have a marketing plan with us and do SEO. This is how we communicate. And so a lot of times you will click here to see any marketing tasks that we assign to you or blog posts that need to be edited or approved. And generally can do all of our marketing communication through here as well as email. So that's what that is if you're wondering. And Edwin, is that any better for you there with the audio? I'm turning up my volume here, and I'll try to speak up so the audio comes through for everybody. So the template editor, that's the next That's probably the biggest spot. Most of you will spend a lot of your time, especially if you're new to Spectora. So this is the hub for your templates and your reports. Everything you edit in here, keep in mind at this point, will generate when you generate a new inspection. So at the time when you book an inspection, it basically pulls a sample of what you have in your template editor. So if you already had an inspection scheduled, you come in here and make changes, that won't show up on a new report until you schedule a new report. And we'll be reevaluating that in the near future, but as it stands today, that's how it works. So starting at the basic level, you can edit the standards of practice by clicking on the pencil icon. This is probably one of the questions we get most frequently. And so when you're looking at an outputted report, a lot of times you have your standards of practice there. This is where you would edit it for each section. You pop in there, standards of practice text. And I can show you on an outputted report where that shows up. So let me jump to that. And I'll just keep a report open here so everyone can see the changes and where everything populates. So your standards of practice will show in this tab. There is an option to disable that, but this is where that text would be edited. So if you're looking at electrical here, you jump back to the template editor, and there's your standards of practice text. So in the template editor, you can also drag and drop sections to dictate the order. One big feature too, you can create new sections. And when you're creating a new section, one thing to pay attention to is whether it's optional or included in every report. The default right now is optional. And so what you'll want to be careful of is making sure that if it's something you want on every report, make sure it's select included on every report. And then you can choose a fun icon for it there. All right, and so for those that aren't aware of the general hierarchy of our templates, I'll start there real quick. So obviously we have our main sections, and all of this is governed by the base standards of practice from InterNACHI. So you have your sections that flow into your items, and then you have your comments within those items. And so what you're seeing here are all the informational comments that show up in your inspection details screen or section right here. So when we're looking at this, you see the age of the building, in attendance, occupancy style. You can add as much as you want here. And this will populate in this section right here in the beginning of the report. One thing I wanted to jump into from the start is the types of informational comments that you can create. So the first one you're seeing here is a number. And so this is a lot of times, you won't use this one probably as much, but this is just speaking of, say, the age of the building, age of the appliance, and then you can put in default values that populate, and that outputs like this. One you'll use probably the most when creating or modifying informational attributes is the multiple choice. And if you hover over it, it'll tell you which one it is. So it's a multiple choice checkbox style. And so in your template editor, if you wanted to add a choice here, I don't know many people that bring their dogs to inspections, but we'll add that. It's cat and dog, and you can have those populate based on that. And so that outputs very similarly with whatever you check off. And then you can also select default choices within here. So that's one of the more common ones you'll use, as well as the checkbox comment. A lot of inspectors will use this to default as checked for disclaimers, anything they want to show up on every report. That's probably the way to go with it, by creating a checkbox comment, marking it as default to checked. So then this particular comment will show up on every single report. And that's right here, the checkbox comment. And so many inspectors will duplicate, say, the inspection details section, or include a lot of disclaimers in there. So, and then there's a couple other types of comments, a date informational comment, and that basically would if you're recommending that they change a furnace filter or that they revisit something at a certain date, you can create that type of comment, as well as just a plain text field. And then there's a couple others. So you go to create a new informational item. We'll do a test one here. It'll ask you the answer format that you want. And so that just was to give you a quick rundown, basically, that there's different ways you can present your informational attributes, whether it's a checkbox, multiple choice, date, a number range if you're estimating the lifespan left of a certain element, and text. So that's something you get more familiar with as you play. And then you can also set your default text to accompany that informational attribute. And I can show and send you all examples of that. All right, so that covers informational attributes. It's very similar setup when you get down to the defect level. And so when you get into sections, items, let's jump into lighting fixtures, switches, and receptacles. And one thing too, it goes without saying, I tend to forget this because I'm always in here, is that you can edit any of these sections. You can change the names. This is a section for mobile reminders. This is helpful for new inspectors a lot of times where if they're worried about missing a particular item, they can put this in for any item and it'll be on their mobile dashboard. And that's something I can walk through with either of you individually. We'll probably do a separate mobile webinar in the future, but that's what that field does in case you're wondering. And then you can edit the text. You can also duplicate sections or items. So if you were wanting to duplicate something to that same section, there it is right there, and then you could move it. You can move it to another section or delete it. So these are your options when you hover over them here. You can delete. This helps you move the item. So say I wanted to move this to the master bedroom because I like that hybrid room by room, system by system template. So that basically just moved that duplicate of fixtures and switches to the master bedroom. So that helps a lot when you're customizing your template. I know a lot of inspectors have told me they use that extensively when customizing. So just something to keep in mind. So when we're in an item, lighting fixtures, switches, and receptacles, you go down to your defects and or recommendations. And this is your list of defects. Very similarly, if you hover, you see you can edit the name, you can duplicate, and it gives you an option of where you want to duplicate that comment to. So a lot of times guys will put multiple defects of the same type in different items and sections. And then you can just outright move this defect or recommendation to another section or item. But when you're within existing defects, you can default them to a safety hazard if it's something you see 90% of the time and it's always a safety hazard, or you call it out as needing immediate attention. You would want to check that off there. So then whenever you mark that off, it's going to default to that immediately. For certain items like servicing a furnace or AC, you can default that to checked as well, although that probably wouldn't be a safety hazard, debatable. So, and then your default recommendation. This is what will show up when you, on the outputted report, it shows them who they should call for more quotes or more information. And then you have your standard default language for that. So if you were to change this and add some more, that would be saved as your default text for that defect. And then you can also add default photos. We remind inspectors that they can drag and drop from another window into here, or you can just click here to add a default photo if you have one that works for this example of cover plates, and you want that in there each time. Adding a new defect. This is what a lot of you will be doing, whether on mobile or on desktop. But if you add a new defect, it's a very similar layout. You can default it as a safety hazard or requires immediate attention, and then you select your default person to contact for more information there. And then you have your text, and you save it. And so that is creating a new defect. Same thing goes for your not inspected comments. So if you don't inspect something, obviously you want to have that legal language in there to say as to why. And you could say obstructed, for example, and then you have your default text for that. So that way you're not having to write that every time something was not inspected or not present. The same goes for that. And so those comments will populate on mobile when you select not inspected or not present. Same format there. All right, so I'll take a quick pause on the template editor side. I know if you've created your free trial account with Spectora, you've probably gone through and edited and played with the template, but if there's any specific questions regarding that, just type them in and we can try to get to them. But otherwise, I'll go into the report writer, which is a very similar layout and similar function as this. And Teresa, I see your question there, and she asked if you can make a field required. Not sure exactly in which way you mean there, but you can make certain sections and items or informational attributes default to showing up on the report. But we can chat more about that after the fact. So jumping into the report writer, we purposely built this to really resemble the template editor. A lot of what we saw with competitors, the mobile was a very different experience from, say, the template editor to the report writer. So we wanted it to look very similar. So as you can see, you have your sections, which you can customize on an individual basis. So say I move electrical under roofing, and it's going to ask me if I want to set that as my new default order for my template. So as you're writing a report, that's one big thing that we're very excited about, is that you can modify your template as you're writing a report, which becomes helpful as you're refining your template on the fly. So I'm going to ignore that for now, but anything you customize or add on the fly, it will ask you if you want to save it to your template for future use. So this is a one-time section. I'm not going to save it to my template. It'll just be on this report. So that's something a lot of inspectors trips them up at first, understanding the difference between what's just on Elm Street, this report, versus what goes into your template editor. So when you're within your sections, it's the same thing here, the same layout. You have your items within that. And then if you're hopefully doing this from a mobile device, all of this will be checked off for you from doing it on site. So you have your recommendation already checked. You have your defect marked. And so when you're in here, a lot of this can be done on mobile, but some like to do their annotations on the desktop. So when you save to cloud from your mobile device and you get to your desktop, you're really just coming in here and making sure that your language is the way you want it. If you do make changes here, you'll see this little pop-up box right here that says, save this text as my default. So I'll save that, and that is now my template default for that comment. So as you're refining this language, it's really helpful to pay attention to saving those if you want that as your default. One aspect here that we like and we really promote is linking out to helpful resources from your comments because the nature of our HTML report is very dynamic. So we have gotten pretty good feedback already from clients and agents for our inspectors that are including links to DIY resources or ways people can do things on their own. It's just a very helpful feature. So if you click into the photo here, this takes you to the desktop photo editor. And as you can see, you can change the different colors, create different shapes. Down here, you have your circle, arrows, you can rotate, you can brighten that up, and then you can delete the object or add a caption as well. And that shows up right on the photo in the report, and we'll look at that here in a bit. That is the desktop photo annotator. Again, a lot of you probably do that on mobile as a preferred way for a lot of inspectors. This cover photo here, by the way, I wanted to circle back to this. This can be taken on your mobile device if you tap on the cover photo, but a lot of times when you're booking a new inspection, we'll pop up the Zillow information for it, and we'll go back to that real quick just to cover that. So as you're booking a new inspection, this is what your page looks like on desktop. Let's say we set this out for tomorrow. Let's do an address here. So this will pull in from Zillow, and we pull a Google Maps photo if we don't have Zillow information. You can always discard this info. But if we do have Zillow information, you can often use, let's find one. Let's find one where it pulls in a Zillow. And you can use this as your cover photo by clicking right here. So we pull that information from Zillow. You can use it as your cover photo as you're booking the inspection. So just a heads up on that. That's something that a lot of new inspectors ask about. All the client information, you don't have to enter all of that in if you don't have it right away. You can still save the inspection and add it later. Your referral source, this is typically as you build your business, and you can say Yelp, Google, and then you can also select your template and agreement, set the price, buyer's agent, listing agent, as well as disable automated notifications just for this report. And we can get into that a little bit later as we get into automation. All right, so we jump back to the cover photo, but let me jump back into the report writer to pick up where we left off. And what you'll see here in the inspection details, I have a bunch of test informational items in here as we looked at in the template editor. And it shows you the different ways that they populate on the report. North Carolina, they require signature on their reports, so that's something that requires kind of some special creation of an image within this text field. So you can see there how that outputs. That's a state requirement, so you probably don't even have to worry about that. But this section can really be customized. So there's a lot of different ways you can add different disclaimers, photos, general photos, default photos, to get those added in there. All right, and then the template editor, again, you can delete certain items if they don't apply. This is not affecting your template at this point. This is just for this given report. So again, an important distinction. We looked at optional items earlier in the template. When you add an optional item, it will show up here for you to add. So say it's something you only see every so often, you can add that as an optional item. All right, so we sped through that. When you're in a report, then obviously the next step is wanting to preview it. So when you click on Preview Publish, that will take you to a screen that looks like this. So this is what the client and agent would ultimately see without the Edit, Report, or Publish buttons. It'd be your logo here, the inspector and agent branding. And then you have the report, which many of you are probably familiar with, so I won't spend a lot of time going through aspects of that. One thing to keep in mind is that when you do have a report that you particularly like, for a lot of you new inspectors, it may be your first mock inspection or your first actual report. You can designate that as your sample report. And what this does is it generates a URL for you that you can share with agents and clients. So that's a cool little feature we like there. The agent tools is one thing we're constantly evolving and making better to help you guys out, because the whole advantage or part of the advantage of our platform is making it easier for agents, because that's the name of the game. So the repair request document basically gives them some text that they can copy and paste to start their inspection objection, their repair addendum. It's called something different in almost every state. But what this does is this lets them take your language and copy and paste it into their document to give to the selling agent to get them started. For those of you that don't know, I was a real estate agent for 6 years here in Denver. This was a huge, huge feature that I wanted. I remember thinking back and wanting as I was an agent. So we've gotten great feedback when I talk to other agents and show them this. It gets them a start on their document rather than having to comb through a 60-page report, which is what we're all used to doing. This just really delighted them. So I encourage everyone to use this as a selling point, depending on the agent and the market. But it's something that's helpful if the agents want to save some time with getting that language in there. And again, if we disclaim it properly down here, this should not be your final text. So the recommendation summary was another thing we got a ton of requests from agents that just wanted a PDF summary of the issues that they need to worry about. And so the real PDF is obviously going to be long like all home inspection reports are, but this recommendation summary PDF is a document that just shows what you pointed out that they can print off, give to the selling agent, and archive how they wish. And then there's some text here that you can put in, and I'll get to where you can populate that. It's more of meant to be an intro and a static piece of text that you want to kind of tee up the summary for your agents. But that was something we got a lot of feedback from agents, and we're pretty excited about because it makes their life easier. All right, and then when you're previewing the report, to pick up where we left off, you can jump back into any section if you want to edit it, just by clicking off to the right, Edit Section. And then you can also see how the photos populate on this end by clicking on them. And then we didn't fill out the rest of this, so that's that. All right. So I'll take another quick pause, grab a drink, because I never ever talk this long usually, except for webinars and presentations. So if there's anything that I glossed over or missed, just shoot me a quick message, and then I'll move on to automation. And one thing to note here on the report, as you're previewing the report, when it is all ready and set to go, you do have your publish button here, which gives you the overlay to customize the email. And so you'll see down here at the bottom, you can always edit this template in your automation section. And so this is what the email will look like based on your template, but you can always modify it for the agent if it's someone you have a special relationship with, or you want to add something a little extra. This is what you would send them here. You can always, and then here's the agent one, right? Agent and client. So you toggle between the two different emails that'll go out as you publish the report. And you can customize the subject line, customize the email. You can decide not to send it to the agent. I know some markets, there's rules and laws around that, around who you can send it to. And so you can modify that here on the fly as you're hitting publish. And so that's a good lead into automation to show you where this email comes from, essentially. So we'll go into the automation tab, where I always tell inspectors to spend a lot of time on up front because this is your chance to customize what goes out in your first impression, essentially, when you schedule a report or schedule an inspection. So the first email, the first touch point you will have with a client or agent coming from Spectora will be your scheduling email. So if you look at your booking confirmation email, you have the placeholders over here to the right, and this confuses some inspectors at first glance. So what you do with these is essentially get your cursor in the email where you want the placeholders to go. So if you want the client's first name, you would just click on that, and it shows you the placeholders with the curly braces here. And so our base stock email templates will essentially put in the street, inspection date, inspection time, as well as the inspection link, which takes them to the inspection details screen. And so if you're wondering what that looks like for your clients, you can, one, set up a mock inspection, put in your email address, but also if you go to any given inspection details page and then click on Client Agent View, and that's right here at the bottom right of this box. So if you click on Client Agent View, this shows you where that inspection details link takes your client, obviously without the menu and without the drop-down box up here. So when the clients land here, they see that they have to sign the inspection agreement, they see that they have to pay, and if you have payments integrated with Spectora, they can easily pay through this little pop-up overlay here. as well as sign the inspection agreement. We do digital electronic signatures for the inspection agreement. And so to see what that looks like, you would just click through to that and see the inspection agreement. As you can see, the placeholders populate the price, the date, the address, and then at the bottom here, we have the checkbox that they accept the terms and conditions of the agreement. Keep in mind that we do stamp the IP address, the date and time when it is signed for your guys' protection. So we've had some inspectors ask about that, but it is acceptable as a signature. All right, so we'll back up again into automation. So that first email that goes out, that happens as soon as you schedule the inspection. So as soon as you hit save, this email fires off. And then this is essentially the same email, but for the real estate agent. So the agents really like the booking confirmations. Some of them love the reminders and follow-ups. Some don't need them. For you experienced guys on the call, that'll just vary based on the agent. But hopefully you can find that sweet spot of giving them enough touch points while still not sending them a bunch of emails. So here's the same principles here. You have the placeholders for the agent email. And then we'll fly through this pretty quick because this is really a series of customizing emails, and they do exactly what they say. So when you do a reschedule, you have a template for that sends out to the client. So if you reschedule from 11 to 3, you can customize the language in here to show them the new inspection time. And that fires off right when you reschedule an email the way we showed you just a few minutes ago. So you have the reschedule confirmations, and then you can send these out to the listing agents as well. We do have some inspectors that use this as a way to acquire more agents and get more agents into the fold for them. So they'll send out the reminder emails, the follow-up emails, and really get on their radar that way. I think it's a cool little backdoor marketing trick that new inspectors especially can use. Your inspection agreements. So this essentially is just if you add an agreement after an inspection is booked. So it's really a template that lets the client know, hey, there's a new inspection agreement for you to sign in there. Go in and get that signed. So now onto the reminder emails. One of my personal favorites, just because I think this is that customer service piece. And from talking to clients when I was a real estate agent, this is something they really appreciated and enjoyed, whether the inspector did it manually or their program did it. They like this type of reminders and customer service. So I like using these extensively. You can modify these to any time period before the inspection, hours, days, weeks, months. And then there is a template for that. Some inspectors like to put links in here to prepare clients for the inspection. Some just leave it pretty standard to say, hey, your inspection's at this date and time, see that. I like the idea of a reminder to sign the inspection agreement and pay. So that way you give them a couple chances. Same thing goes for the client's agent. These reminders, the agents like them. If there's special considerations with the house, a lot of times they will let you know after they get this email reminder. You can also do text reminders, and there is templates for that as well. And as you'll see down here, these text messages send within about 10 minutes of the target time. We recommend putting your phone number in the text message so it automatically sends it back to you. So we'll forward any responses to our system number to you automatically if we can, but it helps to put in your number to say, respond to this number. You can edit that template there. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit shorter because it's text, but you can still use all the same placeholders in there. All right, so now we look at when you hit publish on the report a few minutes ago. This takes us into our report ready email. These two options here they send you a quick email that says the client has viewed the report and the agent has viewed the report. A lot of our guys like that feature. Here is the client report ready email. All right, so here, some inspectors will link directly to the HTML report, which is the report link placeholder. Some push their clients towards the HTML, some know that their clients still want the PDF. So you can link directly to the report PDF from your report ready email, and it'll just be a blue button essentially that says PDF report. So you can link to those two as well. If they haven't signed the agreements, some link to the inspection details screen at that point. Hopefully they have, and you can link directly into the reports right there. And again, same template for that with the agent. You may want to customize it a little different for some different language to speak to the agent. But then you put the same placeholders in and make those emails good. I recommend taking time to really make those right and make them personal. Even though they're automated, I think putting time into that goes a long way, especially from an agent perspective. When I get something that seems like it took time and was personalized, it tends to make me feel pretty darn good about that inspector. Same concept for your follow-up emails. This gets into the marketing piece of our platform a little bit, where this is an opportunity to say, hey, 5 weeks after an inspection, I want to hit that client up, let them know if they still have any questions or if they have any concerns. If they follow up inspections, you can market other services this way, if that's a part of your business or your plans. But all these templates are going to follow the same rules, and they will go out after the inspection. The agent ones, I think, are what guys are utilizing quite a bit to stay top of mind with real estate agents. So I would recommend using these very diligently, because there's ways you can get agents to remember you basically 30 days out. It could be 2 months out, but and it happens without you having to do anything. So one other thing a lot of inspectors use this for is to get reviews. For you new inspectors and even for you experienced inspectors, I'm seeing certain inspectors really pay attention to getting the Google reviews and the Yelp reviews because they're very important. They're important for SEO. They're important for ranking high in local search results. So one thing we highly recommend is to link to your Google and Yelp reviews directly from this email. So you can add a link in here, and you want to link directly to where someone can leave you a good review, because you're hitting them right at the time that they're appreciating your services and realizing that you did a great job for them. So I've seen guys build these up pretty quickly and get on the map. So something we definitely recommend. And then for the listing agent, again, another good marketing piece that you can decide to use however much you want. And then email settings. So this is your email from name that shows up in the email browser. So you can select that from the company or the inspector. And then your reply to address, where you want emails to go back for responses. And then here's where you would define your email header and footer. And this essentially wraps around all of your default, all of your automated emails with your logo and your footer, and you can put obviously anything in there, linked to anything you want. So, all right, that is the automation suite. One thing I forgot, the email queue. We get this question almost from everybody, is that how do you know what emails are going to go out and what emails have gone out? So if you click on email queue, this will show you what is to be sent out in the future. You can see the time and the date here, who it's going to, the type of email, and then you can edit these on a per email basis. So if it's an agent, you want to add a little something extra, or a client, you want to add a detail that you spoke about on the phone maybe. You can edit this individually, and it will not edit your email template. And then you can choose to send it, say, at a later date. And then the sent queue is this button all the way to the right of your email queue. So this will show you what has been sent out. So that way, when an agent or a client, we always instruct our inspectors to check here first, because if they say they didn't get an email, this is pretty good confirmation that it did go out, and it can tell you at what time and date. Sometimes that helps them if they're filtering through their email inbox. And then you can also view the contents of the email here. And then you can also resend it from here. That's something we recently built in that a lot of inspectors are liking. So you pop into your sends queue and can resend an email on the fly. All right, and I actually put email queue up into my top navigation here, and you can do that by going into settings. We'll go through all the settings right now, but you can go to navigation and you can customize what your main navigation will look like. So if you constantly are going into your email queue to check it, probably makes sense to put in your navigation. All right, and I see some questions here. I will read those here in a bit. I see you, William, and we'll get to that. Your settings. This is more logistical type stuff. You can set a default inspection price, start time, duration, your template, and your inspection agreement. So that's just what will populate when you're booking a new inspection. You can always change these things as you're doing it. This is where you will populate your inspection agreement or agreements. You will put in your radon, your mold, your thermal, termite, anything else in here that you can select when you're booking an inspection. Similar to our automated emails, you will have placeholders that you can use in the inspection agreement. So as we looked at that one earlier, it obviously has the price, address, client name in there, and you can modify this to your preference. And when you're booking a new inspection, you can select multiple agreements. So if you're doing a radon and a mold, you can select all three. It's not, you don't just have to select one. Inspection request form. So this is what is linked to from your Spectora profile. So if we look here, here's a sample profile that we create for every inspector on our platform. It's really just a good practice for SEO for us and for you guys to have your name, address, and phone number in multiple places across the internet. So it's what's best for you guys is to get this filled out. I recommend to everybody, whether they're on our SEO programs or not, to get this filled out with a consistent name, address, and phone number, because Google is crawling these pages, and when they see that information, it just gives them more validation. But from this profile, there is request an inspection. And what that does, it's another form that we create for every inspector on our platform where clients or agents can request an inspection time from you. We're looking into building out our calendaring and scheduling options, but the current version, clients submit this form, clients or agents submit this form, they have an ideal time, and this shows up in your dashboard for you to confirm or to call the client to follow up. And so I can send everyone what that will look like. So just take the time to fill this out now. So back to the settings, this text right here can be customized, and that was where we were at in settings. So if you have a note to the client, you can customize that there. A lot of our inspectors just link directly to this page from their websites. And then you can also iframe it in. And then there is some code we can give you as well to take away the Spectora branding and make it just a generic inspection page that looks like really from here down. So talk to me afterwards if that's something you'll want. And then you can receive an email for new inspection requests. That's the email I could go to, and then a text message as well. Payments. So if you have payments integrated with us, obviously that pay screen will be fairly straightforward and streamlined. We do integrate with Stripe and Guardian/Authorize. We may be adding additional payment processors in the future, but for now, Stripe, it's the quick and simple setup. It's going to carry a little bit of a higher fee. It's going to be 2.8% for online credit card payments, but it is easier to set up, takes 5 minutes. So some of our new inspectors will start with Stripe, and then once they start hitting a little bit of scale, they'll switch to Guardian Authorize because they get the lower fees because they specialize in the home inspection industry, and they're right around 1.7% on average. And so that's a manual process to get set up with Guardian and Authorize, and then they give you these transaction keys and login keys to put in here. So we can walk you through that. There's also some articles here linked to the right to kind of tell you a little bit more so you can read more about that. Report options. So on the outputted report, as we looked at, you have the items inspected number here. You can take that away. So where you're just showing your recommendations and safety hazards. The item grid in the report, some don't like that. So you can take that away. So then that way it would just show your informational attributes by default, and you would not have this checkbox grid. And then you can also choose to not display your standards of practice in the report. Some like to just attach it. So that's really your choice there. So you can uncheck that as well. You have a default item status of inspected to start. Some want that as not inspected. So then they actually go through and inspect everything and flip that over. So that's another setting. And then you can change from recommendations to whatever word you want to define a deficiency, whether it's issue, deficiency, recommendation, observations some use. So we see that all over the board. And then you can toggle your photo quality here. We recommend to keep it where it is because higher quality images will obviously take more data and time to import, export. But we feel pretty good about the quality already. And then when we looked at the recommendation summary a minute ago, the PDF agent summary, this is where you would put the text in to customize the top part of that agent summary PDF. And so this has been used so far to display state-specific legal language or text that's required. So if you're required by your state to include certain language, this is a good place for it. One thing I didn't take a look at in our report writer was adding locations to defects. A lot of times this can overcome different inspectors' preferences for certain report layouts. You can easily add different parts of the home, different areas, different floors here. And I'll show you real quick where this populates, but this can be customized to pretty much any location. And this kind of is an alternative to the room-by-room approach that I know some inspectors in practice sounds good, but at the end of the day, we thought adding a location tag is a little more practical and it saves you a little more time. So you can still do a system-by-system approach to your template and to your inspections, but you can just attach a location. So this is an important one. So let me jump in and show you guys how that looks and where you can do it. So let's go into my frayed sheething defect. So I put north side on here, and if you click on this, you can really customize this and add anything that you've put in your settings. You can also type in anything and save that. So then I'll show you how that outputs on the report. It's something we've gotten great feedback from clients, is that they like the fact that it's a frayed sheething north side and it gives them everything they need. So for those that want to use the room by room, I recommend just adding the locations here: master bedroom, secondary bedroom, basement. It could end up saving you a lot of time. All right, and then that covers report options. Subscription, this is just where you can see how many free inspections you have left, your card on file. You can view pricing plans, manage your credit cards, some of that logistical stuff. Integrations, we integrate with ISN and recall check / inspector support group, and you can set those up here. And then there's some dashboard settings, just things you can play with as far as your beginning of your day, your default calendar view. Your Google sync here your Google Calendar sync would be here. This is used quite a bit. There's some instructions here to help you get it set up. And then user options, it's just time, date, change your password here as well. All right. So let me jump into contacts. We do have plans to really blow this out in the future to make this a very useful contact management platform for you as well. But a lot of our guys like the fact that they can just look at their agent list here. They could search over here to the right for a particular agent and see how many times they've used them. And then you can also export this email list if you're wanting to add all of these emails to, say, MailChimp. which I'm a big proponent of with building your mailing list. A lot of agents want useful resources. They want articles that they can pass along to their clients. And I heard this chatter all the time in sales meetings, is that agents do pass these things along. So I think a big underutilized thing in the industry is creating those mailing lists and building them over time, because it just keeps your brand in front of these agents over and over. And you can do it with clients as well. If you're ambitious, it's something we're going to be including in our SEO and marketing plans, is that startup MailChimp setup and kind of getting that going. And we can do custom imports to this as well. So if you have an external list, we've imported client and agent lists for a number of inspectors. Our metrics section, another area we have a base for, but we want to continue to build this out to give you guys insight into your business. For you experienced guys on the call, it might make more sense at the moment, but even you new inspectors, as you get going for a few months, you can kind of see your top referral sources, your top agents, and then you can see where your inspections are. Obviously, you can see I travel quite far for some of my jobs. And then your profile, I said it earlier, get it filled out. Regardless if you are going or focusing on SEO, I think just having this information in here gets you a good start. And then there's a number of other SEO tips. We'll probably save that for another webinar coming up soon. I see a lot of things that are being left on the table from inspectors. And then you can view your public profile here when you're in the profile page. All right, so I will take a quick 30-second break here and take a look at some of the questions I saw come through. We'll get to those. Bear with me. So William asked separate signatures on different inspection agreements. And so as I mentioned, when you're creating a new inspection, you can add multiple agreements to it. And so it would require separate signatures for each of those agreements. So if you're creating a new inspection, you can come down here. You would want to select all the different agreements. There's only one in here in this test account, but you would select your multiple agreements, and that would present the client with the mold, the termite, the pool, and then they would sign those separately. William asked if you can send the report to the buyer and CC the agent. So we have a CC field here when you do set up the inspection for the client and agent. So when you're in there, you can add CCs. This is something we get a lot of questions on as well. So if you go into inspection details, you'll see a field there where you can add a CC email, and you can have multiple. You just separate them with a comma. And the same for agents. I know a lot of times they have a transaction coordinator or an assistant that they want copied on everything. This is where you would do it. You can copy multiple names in there. It does, yeah, William asked if you can see the time and date the report was viewed by the customer or agent. And yes, you can. That will actually show on this screen that I'm on right now. Underneath your report, it'll show you and give you the time and date that the buyer and agent viewed the report. And lastly, are we able to import client agent info from competitors? Yes, we've done it from just about all the other ones out there. So you can get in touch with us if that's something you need. All right. Any other burning questions? And guys, I want to remind you that if you want a personal walkthrough or demo or have more in-depth questions, myself and Mike are very accessible. One of us is pretty much online at all times. So send an email to info@spectora.com. I would encourage you to also check out spectora.com/r. We have a lot of resources on there, and that's where I write a lot of more in-depth SEO tips and advice. And I'm only going to be putting out more of that stuff because I think for the inspectors that are paying attention to growing their business or sustaining it. That online presence is key. And then also check out blog.spectora.com. That's where we'll announce new features. But I think we are all set here. We also have YouTube, Facebook page. So any of you just ping me after the fact and I'll send you all those links. So, all right, everybody, I appreciate you guys I really appreciate you guys taking the time to go through all this. Hopefully this gives you a little more familiarity, shows you the power of the platform with the templates and the report writer and the automation. But yeah, I'm really excited. And in speaking with a lot of you, you guys are all great, and I'm excited for you guys to grow your business. So thanks, guys. Have a good day.